So, Bronwyn, the reason I asked Matt that question is obvious, because once this thing is in place, it's very hard to repeal it and get it out of the way once it's built itself into the mechanism.
No, it's
not. But this
is
so philosophical. Exactly. Tell me why.
No, it's not. It's simply repeal the tax like we repealed the capital gains, or rather the carbon tax under Tony Abbott. And the commitment should be given by the coalition now, that if it is passed into law by a deal with the Greens, with whom the Labor is now in coalition to get anything through the Senate, that it will be repealed upon us going back into government. And there should be no equivocation. It should be hard and fast. And remember, I drew this analogy the other day. Remember work choices. We won 4 seats in Queensland, of which Barnaby Joyce was the 4th senator. That allowed Howard to have control of the Senate. And I have to say, hubris set in, and work choices was the result. This has the capacity to be Labor's work choices. But it will only be that as long as we're out there every day, all the time, saying this government is thieving your superannuation money. It is stealing your assets. That it says this government is a thief. And it's got to be a strong, consistent, perpetual message that we will get rid of. And when the Parliament goes back, you've got to bring out documentation showing what it's doing to people. Make people hurt or know that they're being hurt, not just talking about it now and then giving it away. I talked about it during the election, but where was the coalition with it front and centre?
You see, this is why we need Bronwyn Bishop back in Parliament, Matt Canavan. This is what I miss. That's the coalition fighting spirit. We get it from you, Matt, and we get it from a couple of others, but not enough people are so determined to fight with that spirit. I love it. Matt, I wanted to ask you about Anthony Albanese. He says he's going to talk tough with Donald Trump about our trade situation with the US when he meets him at the G7. Here he was this morning about our biosecurity laws. Have a listen.
Well, we'll never loosen any rules regarding our biosecurity. If things can be sorted out in a way that protects our biosecurity, of course, we don't just say no. We don't want imports in here for the sake of it. But our first priority is biosecurity, and there'll be no compromise on that.
I tell you, Trump must be quivering in his boots at that fierce Prime Minister we've got there. Terrified. The Trump White House will be going into meltdown, won't they, Matt, over such powerful leadership?
Well, look, there's nothing particularly I disagree with what the Prime Minister says there. Of course, we must protect our biosecurity. The issue, Rowan, is not so much whether or not the Prime Minister's talking tough or weak or neutrally. It's that he hasn't talked at all. He's had a couple of phone calls with Donald Trump. Why hasn't he gone over to Washington, D.C. to meet the leader of our most important ally, to discuss these trade matters, to discuss the very concerning security developments that are occurring in our region? I mean, only a few months ago, we had the Chinese Navy circumnavigate our continent. So we had the Chinese Navy conduct live fire exercises under a civilian flight path. And the Prime Minister's had zero engagement with our most important ally at the most senior levels on a face-to-face basis. I do not understand why the Prime Minister has not already got to Washington. I think he would have had ample time to do so before the election. But we're now getting on to near a month. I think we are a month after the election. Get over there, PM. Get over there and just talk. That's what we need. We need to talk. You can always have a chat with the President of the United States. He's proven that with people from lots of different backgrounds. And I don't think he'll care that Anthony Albanese is from the Labor Party. He'll care what Australia can do for the United States, what the United States can do for Australia, and let's get this relationship to be even stronger.
Bronwyn, you're a former Defence Minister. What would you be saying to Trump? Trump wants us to spend more. Hegseth wants us to spend more. Albanese is saying, oh, it's my country, it's my budget, I'll do what I want.
Well, the problem is that what Albanese is doing is refusing to accept responsibility for defending the Australian people, both militarily and domestically. Listen to his statement he just made then about the biosecurity issue. The two statements were at odds. We'll never give in, but if we can sort it out, maybe. You can't believe a word this man says. And with regard to defence, we have an obligation, no matter what commentary comes from anywhere else, he has an obligation to probably spend money to defend this nation. If you can't defend yourself, you become a vassal state. That's what China wants of us, a vassal state. And we seem to be moving closer to China and further away from the United States. So I am very concerned about the next 3 years under this Prime Ministership. Mr Miles makes nice, warm, fuzzy statements, and Albanese says no. So hubris is set in. There is arrogance there. He thinks he can do what he likes. And with the exception of somebody like Kim Beazley, the record of Labor in defence is appalling.
We're without defence, we're having our superannuation stolen, and we've got lies abounding. Tough 3 years ahead. Matt Canavan, Bronwyn Bishop, great to have you here on The World According to Rowan Dean, as always. Thanks so much.